Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi. So, let me introduce myself in a short time. My full name is Halimatussa'adah and I am familiarly called Ima. I was born in Ceylon on March 30th, 2002. About my formal education, I start my formal education when I was 4. I went to the kindergarten. After that, I went to the elementary school, namely SD Edwa Sambaya. And then I went to the junior high school, namely MTS Halimatussa'adah Banjor, and went to the senior high school, namely Halimatussa'adah Banjor. And in 2021, I took several entrance tests for state universities and was accepted at Poltekkes Kemenkes Mataram, majoring health analyst. About my family, my father's name is Ahmad Siddiq, my mother's name is Hapadah. Both are civil servant teachers. So I'm so grateful that I was born to parents who are religious and always teach me about simplicity. It was amazing, and I think they are the best parent ever that I have in the world. And then I am the youngest of 3 children. So I have 2 brothers and I have 1 sister-in-law. My first brother name is Ahmad Hafiz and his wife name is Dewi Rabiatu Akzami. Both are doctors in Sujono Regional Hospital. And my second brother name is Ahmad Alimuddin Ghazali. He is currently pursuing a master's degree at Cairo University. Okay, about my work, for now, I think I just focus on study as a college student. I don't have a steady job yet. I mean, like a job that makes money. I don't have it yet. So right now, I only study and try to participate at various lecture activities on campus. About my goals, why I take this major, why I majored in lab technician or health analyst. I think there's no specific goals why I take this major, why I majored in health analyst. I just like the world of health of any kind. So before I go into this major, before I got this major, I tried to take some tests with major that are related in health, and the result is I was accepted at Poltekkes Kemenkes Mataram, majoring health analyst. So I just like everything. I just interest everything about health of any kind. But my future goals, of course, I have future goals as a lab technician. In the future, I want to be the best, the great lab technician in the future. And the most important thing is, as a lab technician, I want to be useful for many people. One of the material that we have learned in this major is how to stay safe in the laboratory. So there are several rules that we should follow in order to stay safe in the laboratory. And so the first is prepare for the lab. Before we go into the laboratory, before we do our experiments, make sure that we have prepared ourselves, like wear an appropriate clothes, and then wear any protective gear like goggles and gloves, and then secure with your hair in a ponytail or clip, or tie your hair, or if you are Muslim you can wear a simple veil. All of this is important. All of this is done to avoid you from direct contamination. And also don't bring foods or drink and eating in the laboratory, because a lot of stuffs and materials in the laboratory are toxic, so you shouldn't do that to avoid you from poisoning. And the second is understanding the lab environment, like you know where the location of the safety equipment, you know how to do after an accident, and avoid to work alone in the laboratory. This is important if you are dealing with any chemicals, any toxic chemicals or fire. So make sure that there is someone to help you in case you get injured before you do an experiment. And the third is handling the materials with care, like following the instruction when you do an experiment, then handle the instruments with care, like when you bring some equipment, when you bring some instruments, you bring it slowly and carefully. Then ask for guidance when you're using new equipment. And the last is clean your workspace, your body, your hand when you are finished to work in the laboratory. About my experience during practice, a few months ago was my first experience during practice at Poltekkes laboratory. So there were 3 practices that we did. Those were biochemistry, instrumentation, and analytical chemistry. The first practice that we did is biochemistry. So in there we used a test tube to react the solution, and we used water bath to heat the reaction. And it was amazing to see how the color changes as the result of the reaction. The color was so beautiful. And the second is we practiced the instrumentation. We used a microscope to see the microscopic objects. We used 2 objects when we did the practice. Those were lice and blood samples. In this practice we were taught the function of each part of the microscope. And the last practice that we did is analytical chemistry. So in this practice we used an equipment, namely burette, to measure the volume of liquid or solution. During the practice we got to know more about the equipment in the laboratory. So, and we had a lot of fun when we were doing that practice. So yeah, that was very amazing experience, especially for my first experience. So that it was amazing for sure. Thank you.